I just remember thinking, my God, man, this can't be. I can't just fade off into oblivion like I wanted to do. I had the feeling within me, I just need to lay down. And I couldn't catch my breath. So there I was, freezing cold. I couldn't really remember where I was, and highly disoriented. The only thing I could remember was that they always say, just go back downhill. If you start feeling all these symptoms and you're delirious and all of this, just go back downhill. So that's what I did. I turned around and just started kind of jogging downhill, eyes blurry and out of breath constantly. Constantly out of breath. And then all of a sudden, I come around the corner and I see this building, this structure that has lights on. I thought, oh yes. And I could barely see the structure because it's made out of stone, the stone that's cut from the mountain. All I could see was just the light. So I go inside, or I knock on the door, and I go inside, and they, yes, come in, come in. It was a guest house. And oh my God, thank you. So they recognized I was in a very bad way. And so they sat me down, put a blanket on me, and immediately began giving me this tea that saved my life. And that's what we're about to go make, okay? Let's go make this life-saving tea. So for the next 3 days, I laid in a bed, just coming in and out of sleeping and laying there, getting up, getting more of this tea, and I managed to eat a little bit of the broth of the yak soup, yak meat soup, or whatever it was. So here's what the tea was. Cloves. Next is ginger. You have to have fresh ginger. They had lots of it. And finally, the lemon. The life-saving, life-giving properties of the lemon. Now we just let that boil for at least 15 minutes, but that's the thing about this kind of tea. The longer you let it boil and steep, the stronger it gets and the more it extracts from the ingredients. So you can boil it 15 minutes, turn it off, drink some, and then come back hours later, turn it on again, or come back the next day, turn it on again. It's so versatile. So while we let this simmer, let's go carry on with the story. Yeah, so whatever was in the tea must have worked, because after 3 days, I felt incredible. Here's some pictures of me during those 3 days, though. I could barely move. I could barely do anything, as my body had to recuperate and produce more red blood cells. But once it did, whoa, boy, I felt awesome. Okay, and by this point, I'm getting really high up there, all right? I'm just seeing yak caravans. Caravans of yaks bringing supplies for the upcoming climbing season. Over the next few days, I climb higher and higher, and it gets more and more surreal. There was no more trees or plants of any kind. It was just the moss. There was just moss over the rocks. No animals, no birds, no insects, just yaks. Then, by the time I approached the last village before base camp, which happens to be the highest in the world, when I approached this village, on the day leading up to that, it was just all rocks and glaciers. I had never seen glaciers before. It was incredible. You could hear them moving. Crack. You can tell that they were actually moving. You see the glaciers buried under these rocks? Or actually the rocks on top of the glaciers? It's all moving along like a frozen river. And then the morning came when I was set to hit base camp. And as I walk along the very rugged, rocky terrain, I am having quite an emotional experience. Because you have to remember, at this point in my life, as you will know if you've watched all the previous episodes of this story, especially the first couple of them, just 6 months before I was at base camp, I was sitting in a factory, depressed, and just felt like I was going nowhere in my life. I had never done anything. I had never been out of this town. I just felt like my feet were in concrete that was just setting by the day. Every day I went into that factory was just another day that my feet were going to be set in concrete the rest of my life. And I was going to be there for 30 years. Oh, weehaw, I'll get retirement when blah, blah, blah. Man, that shit was so depressing to me to even think about. So that's why I left. Of course, traveling, I didn't know what was out there, but something was out there it was calling me. It was like, hey, come on. You got to experience this stuff. You just gotta experience it. And so this experience of climbing to base camp, for the first time, I really felt like I was out in the world. Like I'm doing something with my life. There's activity, there's adventure. What it comes down to is I feel alive. My God, I felt so alive this day. So good, you're so high up, and the atmosphere is different than it is down lower. It's so quiet, and the sun is right there. It feels like you could reach out and grab the sun, and the air is so crisp, just so pure and clean. There's nothing and no one. You can just hear little rocks cracking over there, and the experience. Oh man. I often still think about the beauty of this day, and it really marks a turning point in my traveling and in my life when, okay, I'm traveling. You don't have to serve a life sentence at the factory like you thought that you were going to, okay? And this is confirmation. Welcome to the world, my friend. So the return trip down the mountain was just mind-blowing, because every step down that I took, the air got more and more concentrated, meaning with each inhalation I was getting more oxygen molecules in the lungs, and my body was acclimatized, so I was already producing maximum amount of red blood cells, and my body was operating hyper efficiently. It just felt so good going downhill, just nice, thick, rich air. And I was just in such good conditioning after 3 weeks of climbing the mountain straight up. So I was just leaping down rocks and jumping down, hey, waving to everybody, hey, The sense of accomplishment was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. This was a turning point, my friends. And so, yes, to leave the mountain, you have to come through the same airport that you landed in, Lukla. Remember, the most dangerous airport in the world. Look it up. So, we're all sitting on the plane, the tiny little passenger plane, and okay, we're getting ready to take off from Lukla, and it is like this. And you just drop directly off the mountain. You just, and your stomach goes, whoa, like you're on a roller coaster. And then all of a sudden the engines kick in, and you pick up, and you're just like, oh my God. You just did a free fall so you could gather momentum. It's awesome. See, after 15-20 minutes it will look like that. Once it's that color, then you can begin. But like I said, this can brew for however many hours or days you want it to. After it's done brewing and you pour it into your cup, then you add the lemon, because you need the lemon fresh like this. Then we will add honey. Very last thing we add is the honey. Fresh, raw honey, of course. Oh yeah, hot, life-giving. Seriously, anything that ails you at any time, begin drinking this at full blast. Have a big pot of it on. Anytime you feel any kind of ailment or throat or anything like that, it will cure it. It's amazing. Now, once back in Kathmandu, I tried to find the boys to tell them, my God, thank you so much. Young fellows, thank you for this suggestion, for bringing me to Mount Everest and having this experience. But alas, they were nowhere to be found. So, instead, my time in Nepal was coming to an end. And therefore, I went to one of the travel agents, which is just like a closet with a guy with an old computer. And so I went there and said, where is the absolute cheapest ticket out of this country? That's not India, because I just came from there. He said, Bangkok? $65, I think it was. I said, I'll take it. I get on the plane and head to Bangkok. Yes, Bangkok, Thailand, where a whole new experience awaited me. Yet I had no idea.